Ready? All right, we will start this regular council meeting of Monday, October 5th, 2020. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have Gordon today, so let's get started, Gordon.
Mayor
roll call.
Laughlin,
Here.
Councilperson Sexton,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Goodweiler,
Here.
Stulman.
Here. All right, we have no guest speakers, so we're going to move on. Public comment? Is anyone here to speak publicly? You'll speak when your time comes. Hearing none publicly speakers. We'd love to hear what you have to say, but we cannot act, so hearing none, I'm going to move on. Consent agenda is the meeting minutes of September 21st, of which we have a revised copy on our desk. Resolution 1938, waiving the right to a formal review for extraterrestrial territorial jurisdiction of a subdivision within 2 miles of the corporate limits of West Branch, Little Regatta 2. A motion to approve a letter of support for Great Places grant funding towards the new Cedar County Cultural Center at Prairie Village in Tipton, and the claims report. Someone give me a motion we can chat about and approve all of that. Jerry and Nick will second.
Somebody explain this Great Places grant funding?
So, yeah. We applied, didn't get the grant the first round. For some reason, the committee must think this is a better possibility. It's at the historic village in Tipton, I believe.
Yeah, and we get 3 shots to put these grants in, and then we have to wait a year and reapply if we didn't get funded for the first 3, and we decided to participate in a countywide coalition to put this grant together. This is the third year, so if we don't get it, we have to sit out for a year or 2 and then apply again. This project is not going to be asking us for any funding. They actually have funding in Tipton that they had planned on doing this anyway. They're hoping to use the grant to enhance the project and make it nicer. So,
What's the project?
Cultural Center,
We're at?
and I guess Prairie Village is
North of Tipton, north of the Walmart, is a little historic village. Cedar County Historical Society operates it. This would be in conjunction with that. I think it's a good place. It's hard to come up with a project that benefits every community, Mechanicsville and Stanwood and all those. And I guess this is a good compromise. It benefits Cedar County. So
I think you might have saw they're trying to use the kind of painted cows to kind of tie in the other communities with certain things, and then have them kind of direct to the cultural center where they'll have programming that's supposedly focused on things happening all over the county.
it'll tie in well. It'll tie in well with that location. The Little Regatta 2 is on Oasis Road in North Liberty. That plan's this little sheet here. It's basically just a land split between a brother and sister, so they can each own their separate little parcel. Johnson County, we're within 2 miles of Oasis, so Johnson County is having us review this as part of the territorial review. There's nothing for us to do here. It's just a land split on a piece of the parcel that's owned by a brother and sister. So that's why it's on the consent agenda. So we would waive the formal review, which I'm not even sure what the formal review is exactly. We get more engineers review it and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
totally not necessary here.
No need to set a signature loose on this one.
No.
Yeah.
So that's what that's about in the claims report. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Jody?
I have one, the Wellmark October bill adjustment.
Yes.
Is this in addition to what we paid in October? I mean,
Yes. Well, I guess we only make one payment a month. There were some adjustments because we've had changes in.
so this is this month and, or,
This is just this month's payment. We, Wellmark, we paid,
it says
Well-
adjustment. What are we adjusting? I guess that's what I wanted to know.
there was an let me find it here. The adjustment was for probably a couple $1,000 because there were people we had brought on after they had submitted their original
After the
bill.
billing cycle,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
that's
all it
that's
is.
all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? You got a motion to approve? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Okay. Non-consent agenda. Item 1, Resolution 1939. Waiving the right to a formal review of an extraterritorial jurisdiction of a subdivision within 2 miles. This is for the Brookview Ridge, just east of town, a quarter mile, as prepared by Bruce Barnhart. Zoning approved this, correct? Passed it to us, that's why we have it now. We are waiving the formal review because
Cedar County is doing their formal review.
yeah, we feel no need to get our engineer involved. We're not going to change anything. Kevin Olson.
Yeah, and the other thing we did is, we're gonna have an agreement between, Ruth and the city that says if that property is ever annexed into the city, that, basically, if the city chooses, they could assess the property owners in there for some improvements around there, and we'll all be going by then probably. So this is just a formality. I sent an agreement over to Bruce and the attorney reviewed it. A couple of minor changes need to be done, but I would suggest we approve this, and I'll get with his attorney and we'll get it all settled up so that they can go forward and be done with that.
The exact language, you mean?
Yep.
I need a motion first.
So moved.
Colton, Nichols second.
Bruce, how do you feel about that?
Well, the first draft, there were some things in there, some phrasing that we could probably live with, but in talking to Kevin tonight, we think there's some different language that will accomplish the same thing. That,
You're satisfied with that?
I think so. I think we're on the same page. I mean,
All right.
if it satisfies my attorney, it satisfies me and my engineer. So Tom's here from Shoemaker and Holland if you have any questions or want a presentation from him.
I have a question. It pertains to this, but it doesn't change what I feel, how I feel about it. Does this have to follow any kind of stormwater guidelines? Like we break people across the coals in the city about stormwater?
I'm gonna let Tom answer that because
Yes, please.
I got a $4,000 water study to tell you what.
He would bring that up. Hi, I'm Tom Anthony from Shoemaker Engineering, and I've been working with Bruce on this for a couple of years now. Of course, that's been at the county level because we have to make sure that everything meets their county regulations relating to septic and stormwater management and all the area things and all the things that you would also deal with, but since you have municipal services like sewer and water, in the county they don't, so we have to still please the county on those regards. The stormwater detention item did come up. Phil LaRue was very adamant about making sure that no problems came from stormwater based on whatever Bruce was going to do. So if you look at your drawing there, the sheet number 2, I'll just do this quickly so we don't take up too much time. There's 2 sheets on this plat for the preliminary plat. When you get to the final plat, we'll have it combined into one. But that sheet 2 shows you 8 lots along Charles Avenue, starting at the top right on down. On the back of the lots is the creek that runs between the county road and Interstate 80. So that has its own drainage area that runs north, and it also runs east a little bit further into the other land. That one's not so much a problem other than it's designated as a flood zone. And the flood zone is shown as that dark black line with dots on it. Those dots are in the middle of each lot. And we're going to have requirements on the final plat that's called a minimum low opening. So no one can build a house or put a septic system or do any grading anywhere east of that line on the lots. But in addition to that, Phil requires, because he's also the sanitation department inspector basically there, that we have to have an area outside of the flood zone for the septic system. That wasn't good enough either. We have to have 2 areas for septic systems, primary, secondary, in case the first one fails. Luckily, we've got lots large enough. They're about 3 acres. You'll see on there, there's a primary and a secondary location. So we did all that to satisfy Phil's need for the septic locations. The houses themselves are also kind of drawn in there because we got to stay up front in the lots. We can't go in the back because we can't grade anything in the back to disturb the soils for septic systems. You have to stay on virgin soil for that. So we're happy, and Phil's happy with the main creek coming through. But his problem was, what about the land to the west side, which is that large open farm field? It drains from the subdivision that's north of County Road, kind of diagonally across, and then crosses Charles Avenue and runs into our property, or Bruce's, right between lots 4 and 5. So there's a little culvert there that's like 3 feet by 3 feet. It's not very big, nor is the drainage area coming in very big. But Phil was concerned that if we had stormwater coming from another neighbor, we had to make sure it didn't impact our subdivision and it didn't back up into their subdivision, anything that we did. Well, we can't control the culvert that's under there now. If they were going to build a new one, then the engineer would probably design one larger. So we had to design his waterway passage to allow that entire drainage area to come through, in which we did. We have a 50-foot buffer zone on lot 4 and 5 to allow that ditch to come through with the water on it. And that's what the study decided was how much water should we allow to come through from the west and provide for it on a drainage easement running between lots 4 and 5 to get to the big creek. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the stormwater thing. We provided for it. We didn't have to do stormwater detention, as we understand that terminology. All the water's on somebody else's property, really. We can't detain their water. Everything that's on our side of the road is basically in the big creek anyway. And we can't detain that because you end up detaining the floodway, which is backwards engineering. So did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Or did we make it too complicated? So I also want to point out, this is preliminary plat stage. And what you're doing is waiving your right to review from an engineering perspective, things that would normally occur in a design drawings of streets, sewer, water, all those things, which aren't going to happen here because it's a county subdivision. You're waiving the city engineer review process of all those improvements that aren't going to be there anyway. So that's where that's headed. We'll have a final plat submittal, hopefully next month. We'll go through that process.
We have to do that too here.
Yeah, unfortunately,
That has to go to P and Z also.
yes.
Okay.
It might bounce through quicker.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to it really compared to all the stuff that's on this. And we have to do that at the county level first. They'll get that done. We'll try to leapfrog it together, seeing how the meetings work. Since everybody approves the preliminary plat, they're not going to give up any, not going to have any reservations on the final plat.
Okay. Like I said before at the P and Z meeting, this is a great subdivision. I support it. We should approve this waiver in my mind.
I guess my only concern was, one that Bruce had when we talked was, and maybe you cleaned that up, but was, if this property was ever annexed into the city, that the association or the developer, depending on when it was, if it was ever annexed, would have to bring Charles Avenue up to city standards. And so I don't know if that's been addressed or.
Well, it's addressed in a different way. Historically, you have not required any subdivision to improve the road in front of the subdivision. Everything out west that still has county roads, they're all still chip sealed. There's no curb and gutter. There's no paving on any of the roads that are on the perimeter of the subdivision. When you do roads inside, that's real obvious. You got to do your streets, your storm sewers, your sanitaries, your water, because those are city utilities that you're putting in. Either if it's a future hookup or a current hookup, then that's the way to do it. But all the county roads are still owned by the county. Not owned, but they're county right away. So I don't know, the way that happens in other cities and municipalities that we work is what's going to be in this agreement. It's already mentioned in the wording is an assessment waiver, where you come in and all the people that surround that road then are going to benefit from that paving, for example, just use paving. So to make one person pay for it is not even acceptable. Then somebody else comes in across the road. I got to be a free street. I don't have to pay anything for it. Then all of a sudden the balance is way out. So that's why the assessment waivers are written in the document. So as each piece gets developed, each person in that association or lot, they bought it, they already know that someday down in the future, you're going to get a bill based on how the assessment computations come out based on your benefits on usage.
So that language is not in.
Exactly. That's one of the things I'm going to change. And since we're going to be surrounding this, the other subdivisions that are not happening right now, if we ever got out there, are going to have the same thing. So in theory, what's going to happen is they're all going to, his subdivision would pay for his half of Charles Avenue or whatever. People on the other side would pay for their half. So
that's the wording that you were talking about.
his attorney request, I read it, I got some response from his attorney, and their points are acceptable to me.
So
He's working on that. The resolution is not that specific. I just say
yeah,
public.
it is though. We have
It
the
says public infrastructure.
points 1 and 2 here are specific.
Yes.
Right, that's kind of the problem we have.
We need to.
It doesn't say road, so there's no specification about a road. This is just public infrastructure. It could be just a water, a sewer. It doesn't say what.
Well,
that is.
point 2 says, at which time, which would be annexation, the association agrees to make public improvements
Correct.
or bear the expense.
That's what we're objecting to. That part we can change because in your agreement, which is next, the municipal improvement agreement, that's page 2 of the resolution. You got that? There is mention in there already of the assessment waiver.
That's
So-
really what you want, because you don't know what you have no idea 20 years down the road what it's gonna cost, so the waiver allows the council in the future, doesn't require the council in the future to do it. It just gives the option to a council in the future to do that if it ever got annexed.
If you really wanted to clarify it, I'd recommend this to your city attorney, that number 2, say in accordance with the municipal improvement agreement that's part of that resolution. Then whatever is written in there becomes part of the resolution document.
Okay, so I guess I'd like the motion to be, in, what's my word,
You're going to approve the waiver.
as approved,
You're going to approve the waiver subject to
subject to, that's what I was looking
the agreement being,
from attorneys, city attorney.
the attorney having the wording laid out.
Do I need a motion to make that change?
I guess my other concern would be though that, say, property on the west side of Charles Avenue wasn't developed, and that would still be the farmer's ground, and we annex this all the way into the city, that farmer is gonna say, well, I don't have development here, why should I pay for half of that road improvement?
He still has benefit from it. So when you go through the assessment process, he is still basically taxed or assessed what the valuation is at that time. So it's not like they're finished lots, which would have a higher valuation and therefore more benefit. There's 8 people on the other side that gets divided up. It's true, it seems like it's unfair because the farmer has more land, but he also has a lower valuation of the benefit. There's no lots there that are being benefited from the improvements.
We can always go and assess it, just because it's farmland doesn't mean, but we get to assess, we get to set the valuation of what the lots are actually worth from the projects than not beforehand. The valuation for assessment purposes are totally different valuation than what the for special assessments versus property taxation. So obviously, farm fields are not taxed very high, but when you do it for special assessment projects, if we got out there and the farmer still wasn't going to develop, you can still assess them their share of the road.
But he won't have like sanitary sewer or
Yeah.
water either.
No.
So then that benefit
No, but
is.
I guess I look at that chunk of road is probably, I would say, just guessing $500,000 at today's.
Yeah, that's the problem.
At today's standards. I mean, in 20 years, it could be $1 million, and you divide that up by nine properties, that's a pretty good chunk.
But the other thing is, the way I read it, or understood it is, you wouldn't want it to bring us into the city until you annex that side of the road anyway.
Right.
Correct.
This doesn't come into play until you've annexed
Everything.
to and want to go around it.
So no donut hole gets created.
You're not, the state does not allow you to create any, what they call islands these days. You can't do that anymore.
Gotta
So
be contiguous.
if this comes in, it's going to be with a lot more property around it.
And that's the purpose of the voluntary annexation, so that you could go around and we not stop
Yeah.
because of the donut hole.
Yeah, so basically what this agreement says, when the city wants to annex and they become surrounded, then they have to come in at that time, but we're not, like I said, it's probably
Beyond our
light years
lifetime.
away before, and a lot of these agreements never get activated because,
I don't know, we could be a tipping, we could all of a sudden just boom.
Boom. It also implies, if you're going to include streets, the entire county road across the frontage. Well, that's a better street than most any street you have in town already. And so to re-improve that to some city standard would be a downgrade from what it is right now. So you wouldn't want to include the county road on your assessment anyway, because it's already a better road than a street.
Okay.
Especially our streets.
So we have a motion and a second to approve this waiver, language of which, exact language to be determined by our city attorney before I sign this.
yeah, versus.
Before I sign this. Okay,
And you'll have a chance to do that anyway. For the resolution doesn't really get recorded till the final plat. So you'll still have another go at it.
will we see it again? The wording or?
Yeah.
We pass
Yeah.
this tonight, we're done.
I'll submit that. You guys didn't have to sign it, so. Yes, you'll see it again.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'm ready to vote then. Let's go ahead, Cory.
Okay. Councilperson Miller?
Yes.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
That's it. Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate your pledge of allegiance before we started. Don't get to see
Right.
that.
Thank you.
Halloween, let's talk about Halloween. Discussion item number 2.
Can it be just like normal?
Well, probably will be.
It will be. I can see it will be. Yeah. Nobody's gonna listen
So Melissa has worked really hard on getting this together.
So,
Go ahead,
do you want me
Melissa.
to, okay. So I went ahead and I put together a list of the high risk, moderate risk, and low risk activities. As we all probably know, traditional trick-or-treating is in the high risk category. Having said that, I feel like it can be modified, and the CDC said that also. If you do some contactless trick-or-treating, stay in, and when the kids are out, they kind of stay in their group, their bubble that they've already created with their families. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to. Turn off your light. I mean, that's just standard Halloween protocol. Some other cities are extending the hours of trick-or-treat too, so that they could almost go all day long to avoid the crowds on the street. Having it being on a Saturday, that allows a lot of different options for setting trick-or-treat times. But once again, I need to just say that traditional trick-or-treating is in the higher risk category. So,
Other towns are actually extending the hours?
Yeah, start at 3 or 4 or
Yep.
Oh,
all day long
I
on
thought you
Saturday.
meant extended.
Not, and we still
Late.
quit
No.
at 8.
Because I was gonna say, why don't we end it at 7?
yeah.
I
No,
just-
not into the night, during the day, in the daylight hours. And that might not be a bad idea, just to do it in the daylight hours either. I mean, that, it's kind of probably annoying to residents. So I won't say that it's not, but you guys get to decide that, not me. So
It's hard to turn lights off
Yeah.
I know.
in the daylight.
It
So
is
I would
tough.
like to,
Turn them on. during
I'd like
the
to have
day.
Halloween pretty much as normal as we can, with some recommendations that give people the responsibility to be responsible and maybe put their treats in the end of their driveway, or what else do you have here?
I was gonna build a
Oh, there's
shoe.
other ways
It's
they
in
could
the
put
driveway.
shepherd's
See one that they had a
I was
clothesline.
gonna
bucket.
You can get creative. I mean, you might have some abuse in there, but you can be creative with it and make it as contactless as possible.
Yeah, and can we publish an official statement then? Either a proclamation from the mayor or council, or?
We usually put something in the paper. I can see if I can do a little article about Halloween safety in the COVID times.
I like that.
Yeah, I'd like to put something in the paper.
Yeah, I can do that.
And what,
Thank you.
but do we need to come up with something more than what you've mentioned here? This is pretty
Here's
inclusive.
My
Hey, I don't
idea
know
is
if
that
we
we
can
just
really-
do a time, they
Yeah.
post that, all we're doing is setting a time. Everybody can participate at whatever level they want to participate at,
That's right.
according to the list.
So
We're not
let's,
gonna tell people how they have to celebrate their
Say, I don't
holiday.
think we
Right.
really have any
we're not gonna cancel
legal
it,
authority.
that's for sure.
My
Do
question
that
was,
anyway.
is there any part of this enforceable? I mean, they
I
don't.
mean, can we even cancel Halloween? I mean, that,
We're not
Cancel
going
everything
to. I
else.
would not support that.
well, I'm just saying, do we even have the authority to cancel Halloween?
No, what if we decided,
You know what I mean?
no Christmas for West Branch? It's just not gonna happen, so.
Not saying that this is
Okay,
a good
let's talk
idea,
about
I just don't
time
know if
then.
we
I like
have
the
much
idea.
authority to do
do much. People want to do what they want to do.
The list of things
Published.
published.
Put it on
and then
Facebook,
it's up to
on
the
our
people
website.
to
I think
apply
it's-
it or not.
This is what we recommend.
I think that's a good idea.
People are generally responsible enough to make their own
I
choices.
just don't think we need anybody going out.
The time
I don't think we-
changes that weekend, doesn't it? Like that night, so it's still gonna be dark at like 6 anyway. So do we do 3 to 7 or?
We've always done 4 to 8 or 5 to 8 in the past. I would say we go 3 to 8 or something like that. Since we get out earlier. What?
You
guess
go
you-
that long,
I
and
I
you're
guess
gonna
you-
find that a lot of people are out of candy, and
Yeah.
a lot of people will be
Well, they'll
shutting
turn the
lights
lights
off
off
real
when they're-
fast.
Still so many kids. There's
Or somebody's going to go
so
at,
many kids.
somebody will go at 3, and then you'll see them back
Unless you're
again
making
at
racks.
5.
You'll hit the good
Then you'll
ones
see them back
twice.
again at 7.
Yeah, so be it.
And they'll go back for a second bag or third bag because the first 2 or 3 bags are too
I'm
full.
gonna give them pencils. Give them a little hand sanitizer.
So what's a good time to start that?
I'd say keep it at 4. I mean, I thought we always started like at 5. Didn't we have something at?
It's
at
been 5 to
town-
8, I
Like
think.
town hall was at 5 or something?
Downtown was at 4, I think. Melissa, 3:34.
So we did downtown trick or treating from like 4:30 to 5:30 this year. Because of the situation, we're just going to, if businesses want to participate, we're not setting a time for that, I guess. They can go throughout the day so that we don't have a big crowd downtown all at once. But we have traditionally done citywide trick or treating from 5 to 8.
So like 4 to 8.
I'm thinking 4 to 8, citywide,
Saturday.
including downtown.
Okay.
So I'd say whatever time you set, whoever's trick or treating is gonna take the full time anyway, so. yeah, 4 hours, they're gonna trick or treat for
4 to
4
8,
hours. If
that's-
it's 3 hours, they're gonna trick or treat for 3 hours.
Yeah.
They're not gonna trick or treat for an hour unless they're just picking.
Unless they got terrible parents.
Well, some people will probably just go to people they know and not trick or
Correct.
treat through the whole neighborhood like they have in the past.
Okay, Melissa, let's do 4 to 8.
Okay. And I'll get something paper.
Yes.
Okay.
And what you have here is pretty good,
Good job.
what you
Yeah.
gave us.
So I have
Okay.
one other thing.
Go ahead, Cole.
So we've decided what the public can do. I guess my question would be is, the city's done things in the past, like the fire department used to do the roasting hot dogs, and, the library used to do something, is the city gonna be a participant in Halloween? Or is our participation, we're just gonna allow it to happen?
Last year, Melissa and helpers gave out hot dogs and popcorn, was it, at the town hall?
Yeah.
Not
So
gonna
we've
do that this year.
We've participated and done that for years, the food and the giveaway. This year, we'll have bags available for the trick-or-treaters downtown, but we're not going to physically participate and come in contact with people.
Just
I mean,
bag
if
it.
we're gonna set a policy, that should be the policy we set, is, how we're gonna allow the city to participate.
Will have to be our responsibly self.
Just bag individual uncooked hot dogs and send them.
Set them on the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melissa will figure that out. She knows what to do.
Yeah, we're not doing any food or anything like that. This is just not the year. Now, we are doing things this weekend for Fall Festival. We're having a pumpkin patch downtown, and we'll have outdoor movie, a drive-in movie on Friday night. The library and I are having one of those at Cubby Park, and then a drive-in play on Saturday night. But we'll follow all guidelines, outdoors activities, as staff will wear masks, by all safety protocol.
Okay, that sounds great. Is that it for Halloween? Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Welcome.
Item 3. An ordinance providing that, ordinance 777, providing that general property taxes levied and collected each year on lot 26, Cedars Edge Edition, be paid to a special fund for payment agreed in connection with the West Branch Urban Renewal Area. Give me a motion, someone we can talk about. Jerry, Nick, we've done this before.
No.
Why?
Okay, so this is the last, as you recall, we did a development agreement with Aaron Vincent on this property. We agreed that we would, for 10 years, give them 70% of the incremental tax value up to $15,000 a year. So for some reason, the 70% didn't reach 15,000, she still doesn't get the whole 15,000. So what we will do, this ordinance sets the base value. The base value of that property is $170,220. The first assessment on the property was $991,710. So the incremental value is $821,490. If you take that times the TIF rate, which I believe is around $28 a thousand, that gets $20,701. So she'd be close to getting her 15,000, and then we collect we get to keep 5,000 of that for whatever use we want to use that for. So this sets the value, base value. So that in December of this year, which is why we're doing the ordinance now, the last meeting in November, we'll be asking for approximately $20,700 for this property, of which we'll distribute close to $15,000 to Aaron starting in September 21, March 22, and the city will keep the $5,000, which is their 30% share.
So is this assessed at full value right now?
I believe it is, yes. So
I didn't know if it came into a point where it was partially done when they assessed it, or if it was.
For some reason, they insisted the assessment was $170,000, which I thought would be the base value would be lower than that, but that's not.
I'm wondering why it's so high there too, because.
Well,
The old clubhouse, which wouldn't
the
have been
problem
that
is,
much.
this goes back to the resolution we had to do last time. They based it on the whole parcel, which included the clubhouse. So in 2018, they had 220,000. They didn't split the parcel up. I suggested that, you took that parcel. This should have been, did this ever have any building on it at all? This parcel?
No.
Yeah, it had a
Shed.
cart shed or maintenance shed, whatever, and some cart sheds, some junk cart sheds.
So I find it hard to believe that was worth.
And maybe a little corner of the clubhouse.
So this is, and before I brought the ordinance forward, I talked to Carrie Dauber, so this will be the incremental value for this. So she almost gets, at this rate, she almost gets her entire $15,000.
Is there a low to moderate income set aside?
Not on this one because it's not a residential. When we'll start this ordinance on the Meadows next calendar year. That has an LMI set aside. This one does not because it's commercial property.
Okay.
So this is just technical for the auditor to split this up.
Technicalities for the auditor. That's what this is. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, Gordon, go ahead.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
All right, discussion item number 4 is consider bringing forward a resolution approving the amount of $100,000 to be contributed to the West Branch School District over the next 5 years for the construction of the turn lane required for the high school expansion project. So Redmond and Gordon have done a little work and come up with a scenario that this could be paid if it's a 5-year agreement. It hurts a little less.
Trying to explain it, but year one, 50,000 is mostly coming out of our building permits. As you know, we got a pretty sizable building permit fee for the school district project anyway. And then the remaining 1250 we can do out of general fund, or we can do it out of TIF. Really kind of depends on how the council wants to do it. There's still a little bit of a challenge with dispersing the obligation of the taxpayers. So TIF might be a way to bring in larger group of taxpayers, so it's not just city taxpayers paying on it kind of twice, down the referendum as well. But we're still at the point, and kind of talked it over a little bit more with staff. There's probably opportunities to enhance the project, do some of the things that the city's looking for. I know that the crosswalk has been a discussion item. You probably would like to see some type of enhanced crosswalk and not just painting on the road. Maybe some type of lighting, maybe some type of traffic calming device to slow traffic or slow lanes or something like that. Then there's, we've been talking about the trail and the sidewalks, and that might be something where those kind of dollars to go to something like that. But again, we were asked to kind of at least come up with a strategy. That's what people are.
So I have a question. Actually, I have two. You said year one would be $50,000, and that would be reimbursed from the building permit.
Yes.
What is our obligation with that building permit?
Typically, that goes in the general
It
fund.
just goes in the general fund. It's
But I
not,
mean,
Are we paying an inspector is what you're asking, I think.
Oh, is that what our cost related to that? Of course, Terry is kind of he's an employee, but we pay him directly from the permit hourly rate. So
he actually goes in and inspects it.
yes.
What kind of cost would that incur?
It's hard to say since we haven't went through the whole project. I estimated $20,000 for his fees, as well as there's some inspections that Matt will be doing as well. So it's just an estimate at this point.
Okay, how much total was the building permit?
Around 70,000.
Around 70,000. All right. The other question is, there's wording in here about the school has to expend their contingency fund before we would do a commitment. I don't like that idea. Either we commit or we don't. I don't think we have any business telling another entity in town how to spend their money.
And also, that contingency, they don't even know what's gonna be included, what they're gonna spend on that contingency until this project's underway. So I kind of agree with you that contingencies, you never really know where they pan out until the end of the project. Some of the finishes even.
So what you're saying is this project may start before they finish the school?
I don't know that for sure. I thought the school was supposed to be done in January of 22.
I would assume that Kevin could write this up to their contingency. I mean, even they're going to pay for this up front, and we're going to pay them back. So if it ends up that the school ends up going, this gets started.
This could be their contingency.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, virtually.
They
I mean,
can spend their contingency if they're under.
I mean, even if this project, if the turn lane started next year and they still aren't done with the school, we wouldn't have to pay them until the school's all done and they determine how much contingency they burn up. And if they had extra contingency, it would go to this turning lane, and then we would pay the difference. That makes sense?
It may even be like taking that approach, but still having the money and then using it for something that we know that we want, that's important to the city, like a crosswalk or some sidewalks that's not in the current plan.
You're saying if they have enough contingency to pay for this whole thing, then we could take some
We
of our
can
money
use
and
this
put.
and then make it sweeter to what we're looking for.
It's gonna have to be a crosswalk designation somehow, light, it's gonna have to be there.
Right, I would like to.
Um,
I mean, in my world, I would love to see the same type of crosswalk we have at the Park Service, where you can hit the button and have a light to change so people can go across. But there's others where you can have like lights.
That costs $100,000.
That's another street light in town.
Oh, you're right. It would be, but I'm expecting to see a lot of kids going to school. I mean, and walking.
I find the drawback to that is how many times that light is actually turned and how many times people drive through it because it's always green. And the one time that it might turn red, they didn't even realize it turned red and go right through it. It's not like a
Well, yeah,
light that's on and off all the time. It's
I think that's
green most of the
challenge with
time.
crosswalk. Yeah, right.
And if unless you're paying attention to somebody standing on that.
Done it?
Well, no, just there's a lot of
I've
traffic
seen
thing.
people
I've
do it.
seen people do it. I don't know how
I
many
can't
people,
remember ever driving through
they
there with.
put the stop sign
red
up
light.
here,
Mhm.
drove through that
The
on
whole
a
hour.
daily basis.
I
Oh,
did
no,
it
didn't
two or
even
three-
stop,
I did it 2 or
just
3
drove.
times, and I was the one that was fighting for it.
Just right through the, all of the street, or
20 years
Main
ago.
Street.
Well, the
to
bottom
Office
line
and
is there's
stuff.
gotta be some sort of crosswalk control,
Something.
whether it's ours or the schools.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if
It's
you
never
just-
theirs.
If
It's
it's
never theirs. I
Well,
mean,
The
they-
deal is, I
should be a
mean, if
little
it's
bit.
school hours and it's whatever, you should have a crossing guard ultimately.
Correct.
I guess my point is, the
Signing.
school came to us and asked if we would be a partner in this. And we've been discussing this for 3 months. And now we're at the point right now where we're agreeing that, yeah, we will be a partner in this, only if you spend your contingency fund. I mean, either we're in this or we're not.
So we need to just commit the $100,000 and like the resolution that we had 2 weeks ago had a number. Well, it didn't have the number. Could this be the number? Because this is what we were looking for, whether we could pan it out or not. So I'd like to see this number put in, the 100,000 put in that resolution. That way we're committed to that.
But what kind of partner, it's not being a partnership, it's almost like a charity. If somebody borrows, just use a number, I have $1 million to do my project. And I want you to pitch some money in too. Would you do that for me? But we're gonna get a benefit out of it. Let me finish. And then my project costs $700,000. So I get 300,000 and you give me 100,000. And so I told the community we needed this much money. We borrowed this much money, to do a project. We did the project. We got money from other people because we told them we needed more money. And we didn't even spend the money we had. We just got their money for nothing. But that money, if it's extra, will go back into the community because it won't be spent. And that's taxpayer money. But we don't get it back. Our taxpayers don't get it back. Well, we will in the form of lower taxes, property taxes. I mean, if they have a $22 million project and they only spend $20 million, they got $2 million extra that they didn't spend, that goes back, that's $2 million they didn't spend, and that's $2 million that they're not going to have to collect from property taxes and borrowing money. But is it our responsibility to manage the school's money? No, but I feel that we are. They set the tax base for the residents on their needs. And what if we have to, what if this all goes south and we find out that our road tax isn't going to be what it's supposed to be and our sales tax isn't what it's supposed to be? We're sitting here at budget time and we've made this commitment and now we have to raise taxes. Right now, we've got $70,000 from a building permit that's probably going to cost us $20,000. So we're
we're gonna give them back $50,000 of that, and then we're gonna spend another $50,000. So we're getting 800 feet of blacktop road for $50,000. I think that's a pretty good deal. And the majority of
That's our partnership. That's
and
our.
the majority of the traffic that's gonna be coming through there is gonna be from West Branch. It's not gonna be from the school. You know, coming from the Meadows and coming from the finishing of Peterson Valley, coming from people.
We're getting a turn lane to turn into the school, correct?
Right.
So if they,
And onto the other road.
so how really are we getting that? I mean, if the school wasn't there, the school wasn't creating the second entrance and the extra traffic, we don't need a turn lane now.
Well, what I'm saying is, with the rebate of the building permit, we're down to $50,000 commitment for 800 feet of blacktop.
The study, I think the study warranted that the increased traffic, the school isn't really causing that increase in traffic. The increase in traffic is coming from the growth of the town. The number of cars that are going by there every day is coming from the growth of the town, which is the town's
Okay, but
responsibility.
I don't even understand why we're putting a turn lane in, because look how many new homes are out there, and we never added a turn lane at the community bank. How's everything working there? How's traffic getting through and not backing up there?
It's spaced out time-wise versus school getting out or people going to school at 8:20 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon.
Or events.
It's spaced out, or events. That's the disadvantage, that's the disability of this. That's why this turn lane's necessary, because there's just a backup.
Because of the
Potential
school.
backup. But it's city traffic also. It's both. We could argue that all day.
We have city traffic at the community bank corner. And it does fine without a turn lane.
That's only one.
You're adding this at the school to turn into the school. That is the reason why we are adding a turn lane, is because the school is there. Otherwise, we would not have to add a turn lane.
Can we all agree that a turn lane is necessary? Does anyone disagree with that?
Well, let me put one point out here, because when I've seen the school in the morning, they're 10 to 12, 15 cars deep, and I guarantee you they're not going to get 15 cars in that turning lane without stopping traffic. So this turning lane is, to me, is not really going to be that beneficial during that time of day, because it's still going to back up traffic to the west. Because there's so many students come in at the same time, and when traffic is coming down from the west, you still can't turn there, so they're just gonna be backed up. But for the most time, this intersection.
Because of the meadows, right? They back up there because of the meadows?
No, but unfortunately, that's what the traffic study said, because they were predicting that there's gonna be a lot of traffic coming from the development.
That's why I said, if they're going to have two driveways, I said this probably 2 months ago, if they're going to have two driveways, traffic coming from the west, kids coming from the west going to school need to turn into the furthest driveway. Traffic coming from the east needs to turn into the first driveway. They don't need to go to that second driveway.
Yeah, they do, because it's not gonna be a connection.
Yeah, they'll be connected.
They'll be connected.
It'll be
The
a-
drawback is the middle school is gonna be to the west side, and the high school is gonna be to the east side, which, like you're saying, but what's gonna happen is the high school kids coming from the west are gonna have to go all the way to the second driveway to turn in, because they're not gonna turn in the first one and go through the parking lot to get to their parking lot. So, but the traffic study, my understanding was that it was the increased traffic coming from the north from the meadows
Eventually.
eventually.
Which really.
Not right
hasn't-
now, eventually.
Yeah, it hasn't even been built out yet.
So it's kind of sidetracked. I mean, are we gonna, I guess, are we gonna help the school? Are we not?
We have to help the school. We can't turn our back on them and say, no, you're on your own. We just can't do it. It's not helping the school completely, it's helping ourselves also. It's a city street. It's a city street that needs to be improved, and we're responsible for the city streets.
Without doing it the right way, without doing curb and gutter, you're not doing it the right way. So you're not improving it the right way. In my
Well,
opinion.
that cost is
That's my
astronomical.
opinion.
That cost is out of the question. We can't even agree on this,
So-
let alone.
So then I guess could we just do the project ourselves? And then split the road down the middle and assess these property people? I mean, we just talked about doing that for, we'll assess the school for their part, we'll assess KLM for their part, all the people whose property it butts up against, we'll just assess them. I mean, that's how you do it, right,
I don't
Roger?
know how that gets done, but we just talked about it, didn't we? I don't know if that's possible.
Possible, but then the city's financing the project up front and carrying it for 10 years. The assessment fund. You would have to finance it.
Okay, so under this scenario, the first 50,000 we've already got cash. The rest of the 12.5 every year, we can TIF. We pay it. We've incurred the debt.
I have another scenario.
Then we can ask for that 12,500 back from the county.
I have another scenario where we
Go
can
ahead.
pay for this all this year, but I'm not gonna discuss it now. I'll wait till later in the
Okay,
closed session.
if we can. I don't know if we can talk about it in closed session. Okay, well, I support this scenario. This is what we asked Redmond and Gordon to come up with. Anybody else support it or not support it?
I won't support it with the contingency.
Not with the contingency language, you don't like it.
I like Colton's idea of we doing ourselves and,
Says everybody.
yep.
We had that option
I don't think we
3 or
can do
4 years
that.
ago.
We did.
We did.
When
And the
KLM
school said they didn't need that. We're not gonna do it like
The
that.
KLM got built and they're done, so they were gonna be 1/3 partner on half of some of this. I don't know what to do next. We beat this thing to
We
death.
beat this thing to death.
Mechanics of the machine is politics like
Let's vote. I'm kind of with
that.
Tom.
You could do it, but it's
Get
the
800,
politics of
get
it.
800 feet of street for 50 grand. Regardless if it's upgraded the way we want it or not. I mean, it's an
That's a
upgraded
good
street for
deal.
$50,000.
That's a hell of a deal.
You know what's a better deal? You get 800 feet of street for nothing.
10 years later, like
Not
Kevin just
necessarily.
said, yeah, you got to assess them and then you don't get it for an assessed thing for a long time. So yeah, you spending
You support
$500,000.
this? You support this the way it's written?
Yeah.
Maybe the,
I'm not,
maybe the
the
contingency thing?
contingency part is,
Yeah, I'm wishy-washy
Yeah,
on
me
that
too.
myself.
I don't mind the contingency myself, considering that the school's contingency is over $1 million. And they're spending $20 million on a project. I think this, the contingency.
So under this scenario, they have $700,000 of contingency left over at the end of the project. It comes time to build the road for $300,000. They build the road for $300,000.
They still have 400,000.
We're on the hook for nothing.
Right.
Is that,
No, so
Then we're on the hook for
here's
nothing.
where,
Yeah, we would be enough.
if we make them burn their contingency?
okay, so my proposal would be that they burn their contingency. We take the 50,000 and we, like Redmond has suggested, we put parameters on some of the stuff that we want in this. So if the crosswalk needs to be on there and it's not part of their improvements, then that's the cost to us. That's where that 50,000 could come into play.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
because
about the other 50,000? The second 50,000, or that would be the second 50,000.
Yeah, the 50,000 I'm saying is what's coming out of the building permit fee.
Did they agree to the 100,000? Because
They have-
the cheapest
No.
one,
Do they
half
know?
was 156,000.
Yeah, this would be our counter proposal to that,
Yeah, I mean,
whatever it comes
Right.
the
out.
first proposal was we giving 150,000, splitting it right down the middle.
Right.
that came from them.
That
Correct.
came from them, yeah.
This is getting lower and lower on our part, less money and less money on our part.
Okay. I guess I'm,
Last time we talked about this, I kind of threw out 120. I was looking for a number from somebody. 120,000.
I kind of remember that now.
So
I kind of remember.
Here's another
we're
scenario.
down to
that-
100,000 now.
Here's another scenario that, you know, I'm kind of changing in my tone here, but here's another thought to this, that the community and the school district is already taxing everybody for the school. And now we're looking at spending some city money, which, you know, I don't see us raising our taxes, but the possibility would be there. We raise our taxes to help the school that's already taxing us for the same project.
Well, this is levied money. The money we use would be levied.
Not necessarily if the $50,000 is a just general fund permit revenue. It's not levied money.
Yeah, the second 50,000 would be levied money
Yeah.
until we get reimbursed from TIF. But the second 50,000 is levied money. So the city residents are paying for it twice in a way.
Yes.
That's your point. I know.
Sort of.
But if we TIF it,
Sort of.
Well, it is because the
Awful.
loan isn't for the
But why would
entirety.
I guess the
The loan
point
they
is,
took out is
why
not
would
the
we
entirety of
pay
the
for any of it if the school's already got enough money to pay for it? And they're already taxing the community for it, which we're getting county tax, you know, they're getting county residents to help pay for our project. Or
Portion of it.
So I guess what you're saying is if you TIF it, then the county's gonna pay for it again, and the school's gonna pay for it.
it's just a little bit of county money. You know, the guy in mechanics, the farmer in mechanics will help them pay for it.
I understand.
That's. All right. Man, I don't know what our problem is with this. This is painful. I guess I was hoping we could get this in the form of a resolution on next time. By next time, we either pass it or fail it.
Right?
I don't know.
That's what we need to do. This is a good scenario. Let's get it in the form of a resolution for next time.
We gotta figure out if it's gonna be with or without contingency.
The contingency language, I want to,
No. I'm thinking two.
Well,
So,
let's
yeah,
do a
let's
vote,
say-
let's do a straw vote here, with or without contingency.
I'm for
Can we
it.
do that, Kevin?
It's not binding, you're just discussing it out loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to be clear, the wording is now that they use up their contingency first. Which I think we wouldn't pay anything.
Well, then
I
are we
see
still
us paying
committing this
nothing.
amount of money though, and then we're gonna use it to upgrade the project?
That would be what I would be looking.
So that would be what you're talking about. We're still gonna be on the hook for $100,000. But you gotta use your contingency, and if you don't use it, then we'll spend the $100,000 to add to the project what we like.
Yeah, but that doesn't work because their school project may not be done. They may not use up to contingency before this could possibly get done.
This wants to happen next summer. The
So
school
we
won't be
have to
done until
decide
January.
if we're gonna commit to improvements, we need to commit to those improvements before they get done with their school. So whatever those improvement costs are gonna be, we would be on the hook for that, with the assumption that their contingency is gonna pay for the road. And if it doesn't pay for the road, then we would be on the hook for the 100,000. That makes sense?
Yes and no. I mean, if we decide that we're gonna put a crosswalk in with the light and all this other stuff, and we do it, and then they come back to us and say, oh, guess what? They don't get both.
Yeah, because
If we've already put the light in, if we've already spent $100,000 for the light, and then if the road doesn't come into where their contingency doesn't pay for it, then we don't pay for the road too. We can't do both. So either the project has to wait until the school's done, or this scenario doesn't work. I mean, we can't tell them that they have to use their contingency before we're gonna do
I
anything.
don't see how we can tell them they have to use it.
You gotta keep in mind, this is a 5-year payout, so they're definitely gonna be done before our last year.
Oh, yeah. At this point, they'll be done before our first year.
Very possible. Probably in this problem. What is second?
I can write it whichever way you guys want it. I mean, the agreement, you're right, the project will be done somewhere.
I want to get a resolution next time with,
Okay, how many sitting here would support this resolution with them spending the contingency fund? Raise your hand.
I think I probably would.
I would more than likely with that.
spending their contingency first.
Yes.
And this would be their backup.
But see, how do you know that that's not gonna take streetlights or stoplights?
I don't know.
How much are stoplights taking?
They're more than you think. They really
Well,
are.
probably a couple $100,000 because
No,
you're gonna have to make it a 4-way.
40, 25.
I have no idea.
It could cost that just to run power to it.
Exactly. That's, see, I don't, there's still unknown out there that we're still on the hook for.
All right, how many would support it without the contingency?
I do, but I can't vote.
Personally, I'd rather see him take $100,000 and spend it towards school kids than a road.
On the actual school.
That's kind of where
So
I'm sitting.
maintenance-free products or like terrazzo floor or,
School's there to teach kids and provide kids stuff. We're here to provide roads. I don't see why we should require them to spend money on a road, and that's what we're here for. Especially when we're talking about $100,000 and 50 of it is something we're just giving back.
so Nick's saying he would like to see the contingency out of there. And you would support that. In some form of way, in some sort of way.
We paid $50,000 over 5 years and get 800 feet of road.
So if we have a resolution next time with some language, either no contingency language or contingency language, we can modify that. Once again, I just feel like we need to come to a closure on this and And,
Like a rock in my shoe.
let's get a resolution next time. With this scenario, and we'll talk about the contingency one more time, and the street, and the crosswalk, I suppose. Who's gonna be responsible for the crosswalk?
Okay.
Maybe it should be spelled out, either the city is or the school is.
So we're talking about partnerships, right? Right, being partners. So a few years, I would like to bring this back up then. I mean, we don't have to have an in-depth conversation about it right now, but I mean, something I'd like to address with the school, you know, we're gonna be partners. We have a library that at some point we want to expand. We brought it up a few years ago when we talked about expanding the library, about how we're kind of landlocked where we are. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pick up the library and just move it completely and start all over from scratch. And how it would be maybe down the line when we decided we wanted to do that, is if, you know, somehow we could help them relocate their bus barn, and then we've got that area over there where we could expand our library. We were told that it wasn't within their facility plans and that they weren't interested in that. I guess if partners help each other, and I don't know, I guess I'd like to have that discussion. I'm not saying that, you know, this depends on that, but I would like for them open mind. I mean, if they want to be partners, they could really help us out. You know, if we had a commitment that maybe the time that we wanted to, there came time that we wanted to expand our library, that, you know, they would work with us in relocating their bus barn. So we could do that. I think that would be beneficial to the city.
Yeah, that would be a good point. Yep.
Okay, that shouldn't hijack this topic.
No,
but
no.
That's a good point.
But if we're on the subject of being partners and helping one another out, then let's do that.
Okay, we'll talk about this next time. Is it gonna be a long meeting next time?
I don't know.
All right, we'll talk about it again. Let's move on. We're gonna move
It'll
on.
be a resolution next time.
That's, yeah. Item 5, Greenview Connection. So, Dave Scheckinger's up online. We have, you guys seen? Yeah, there it is.
I went and looked at it Saturday.
So we got a couple of choices and one couple of costs involved. Anybody have any questions,
I have some
preferences?
concerns, and I would think that you would have some concerns.
I do, a couple.
Go ahead and point yours out.
That's dumb.
The short connection I didn't think was viable. However, then I look at the long connection, I see a ditch. I think I see a
You have a
ditch.
ditch no matter what.
I have a ditch no matter what. Well, you know, I'm powerless to,
I don't like the ditch.
I don't like the ditch
I
either.
don't think you'd like the ditch either.
I don't like the ditch.
Is this the one you did with the ditch?
Yeah, it's if you look at the cross
It's
section.
a pretty steep ditch.
Cross sections. And I don't know exactly where they are. Okay, it involves using some land, taking some land of putting the sidewalk on the opposite side of my house on that property owners. I've chatted with them. They are warmed up to sacrificing some land at a little bit of cost. I don't think they'll give it up for free. Didn't talk numbers.
So the sidewalk's gonna run from the new Latham Ridge into Greenview, into that guy's driveway, and then stop.
Yeah, well, we gotta stop it somewhere. 'cause
There
we
won't
can't-
be anything on the other side of the driveway. Where the kids,
There's
so
nothing
they're
out
gonna
there,
have
any
to walk in
sidewalks
the
in-
road and then
They
go.
do
There's
now.
nothing out there now anyway.
There's no sidewalk
Now,
anyway.
There's a
So-
sidewalk in Greenview in the entire place.
Steep that is. It's about a 4-foot steep, but I don't know how that can be avoided. Dave, you out there?
Well, is there a ditch there now?
No.
What did you look at picture?
Yes, Roger, I'm here.
Why does that ditch have to be there?
So
I'm not sure you
currently,
can get that far over because they just buried a new water line. Kind of where that ditch wants to be.
I think you could take that ditch out, flatten it out if they went clear into your yard, Roger.
Well, I wouldn't object to going clear into my yard. I really wouldn't, seriously.
Drain your whole front yard to that. Flatten that out really nice.
Well, let me ask first of all,
You're no help.
Well, I
let me
guess
get an opinion. Is one scenario better for you guys than another? And what's the cost? I don't even know what the cost is.
One's 48,000, one's 200.
Yeah, one's $250,000.
That's with concrete though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're just gonna assess the property owners, right?
One's 55, one's.
Just the two, just the two, just
God.
the two.
You don't want them there to be.
We're gonna, we're gonna assess the property owners.
Trying
We'll
to
go
get mayor
with
tomorrow.
250.
So I'll have to get his third job.
125,000 piece.
So I guess I'll make one point, probably obvious, when me and Matt sat down and originally
This property,
figured
is
this
it?
project in the budget,
Yeah.
This.
it was.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know,
And
that's
and
reasonable.
there's
Let them finish their
Yeah,
discussion.
I didn't
You guys done?
You're talking about the ditch on the
I
east
want them
side
to all hear this.
that comes to a point or whatever, that's right there.
Right here. Is the city still on that then?
No, this whole project goes on both property owners, I don't know, quite a ways, 10 to 15 feet maybe, which I'm not going to object to terribly. I got a tree that I just planted 10 years ago.
Just planted 10 years ago.
Well, it's a nice tree. That would have to
Just
be,
planted that tree.
have to be worked around or replaced.
Then they should put a
You need a new driveway, we do those for people.
I'm
We
expecting
just
it.
pour everybody new driveways.
Okay, I'll probably be a $4 million budget, so, you know.
Those two are.
Dave, can this be done? Can both projects be done with chip and seal?
We could do both projects in chip and seal. We do have concrete driveways shown on there. I'd have to probably do a little bit more discussion with property owners to find out if they were okay with extending driveways chip and seal. I would suspect if they have concrete, they'd want to see that pushed out to the street. There's a fair amount of cost in there for driveways.
Roger, he doesn't need to do everything.
I had to stop my pave because I couldn't afford any more concrete. So
You did it yourself.
I got about 20 feet of gravel. I couldn't afford anymore.
Okay. So,
What's our, I don't know where I'm
so,
at.
so when we started this, we didn't have sidewalk in there, we didn't have contingency costs in there. We came up with $20,000 of what we were budgeting for. So the 50,000 is more than what we had budgeted, but we could probably get there without having to finance as a separate project. The 239 is a definitely separate finance project that we did not anticipate. So it would certainly be a budget amendment, and it would certainly have to be a separately financed project.
The 239 is full-blown concrete, right?
Yes.
Well,
And that's probably another way that me and Gordon will have to talk through too.
What is that?
Just to make sure.
That full-blown concrete for the entire street or just? for-
yeah, I'm confused of which, the 55,000 is that the short street or the long street?
Short Street.
And the
That's a short
239,000, is that the short street or the long street?
I'll look at that.
That goes all the way through the cul-de-sac and meets up with a straight section road.
So not only is it concrete, it's the longer version of the two,
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
full.
correct?
Full width, 31 feet
Versus 24 feet.
for the seal coat.
Who's got a preference of what? I mean,
First of all, I think that the long street almost has to happen. You can't.
I agree with
You
that.
can't make that a thoroughfare and have that stupid little.
It's almost a
Round
stop
sign.
sign.
Has to be
Considering-
long.
Considering what I brought up the last time was that eventually Cedar Johnson Road's gonna be closed.
Right.
There's gonna be a lot of traffic gonna have to take this way in and out.
So let's
So-
agree on a scenario first.
Along.
Is,
Has to
I'm
be
hearing
long.
two long version.
Long version, but not concrete.
Nick,
What'd you say?
No concrete, just chip and seal.
well, we'll decide that in a minute.
I'm neither here nor there. I mean, I don't mind a long version if it's not concrete, but a short one doesn't bother me either. But
Could we do the short one this year and have the city take out the trees and do the chip and seal next year?
That was also something that Matt suggested. I talked to him today about that. To make it like a phase 1, phase 2.
Could we do the short version in concrete and the rest in chip and seal?
Well, no, it was saying all chip and seal.
All chip and seal?
Well, I mean, if the short version in concrete's not astronomical, I mean, it's not out of the picture either, in my opinion. Right now, the long version's $240, the short version's a lot cheaper than.
Ultimately, it's going to
Concrete,
be
and not
connected
too
to
bad.
chip and seal anyway. So you're just starting the chip and seal earlier. So I don't know if it really gets you very much.
I'd love to see it concrete, but it's just a lot of money.
So let me get this straight. So we've got this connection that people have wanted for 20 years.
25.
Yeah, 25 years. We're finally going to be able to make it happen. And we want to do it half-ass. I was trying to think of a pretty word for it, but there's not. Half-ass. We just spent an hour talking about a project that ain't ours that we don't want to cut no corners on. And then we got one that's ours that the people have been begging for 25 years. And we're trying to figure out how we can do it on the cheap. And, you know, we want to do something. If we're going to do a project with the school, we want it to last. But if we're going to do it for ourselves, let's just do chip and seal and
Trying to get this done. Good point. This year yet.
I don't know about option 1, I guess.
The developer will have a paving machine up there. I mean, if it works out, they could just keep on going till we say stop.
Where do we get the money?
We're on another tree.
Gordon's got to ask that.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean,
I-
that's why I was okay with this.
This could be a capital improvements project.
$50,000 is the reason I was okay with the school one.
We've been talking about capital improvement projects. I mean, we could
I can
borrow
get
it.
824th Street.
It could be borrowed.
Yes, then yeah, for 50 grand, I'd say yes too.
Just it'd be the first capital improvement project.
If we're gonna borrow, can we just continue this like all the way to Cedar Johnson Road?
Past
So
your house.
does it move?
All the way to Cedar Johnson Road. I've been
Down
saying
Lord
this
Greenview.
project is-
That's got like $3 million.
So does the long one actually, so if you did the short one, are you saying that you can't do the short one this year and then because it doesn't line up or what? I guess I'm not understanding. Because to me, it looks like,
They are
long-
slightly different offset.
why can't you do
This is closer.
do it in sections?
How many sections?
I
Two
don't
sections?
know. however much money we got to do it. In my opinion, if we do this, and if we would have made KL, the other developer, where that curve, that first curve in the country club, if you would have made a connection there, you wouldn't have to do the whole Johnson County Road. You wouldn't have to do any of it because you've got 3 ways out of there.
Well, that didn't get done and it's not going to, so that's. I
They
lost-
were open to that. I
I
don't know
lost
why
that.
that didn't
I don't know why it didn't happen either.
I think it
They
was,
wanted another house.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it. They didn't put it in the plan.
Well,
I think it was in.
we could have
not
said,
because
we want a road.
Because of the curve in the road, that the
Yeah.
intersection
We
would
had the
would not meet
opportunity.
up properly with the curve in the road to make it an intersection.
That's water under the bridge.
Because I wouldn't have done, I won't do Cedar Johnson Road.
Is there a way, the short version could be the paved version and we chip and seal the rest of it?
Do the short version this year with concrete and then maybe have the city clear that circle out next year and
That
chip
could be a
and seal
city
it.
project for the 50,000 or so.
Tie it to the other
Is that a
road
possibility?
for now.
Yeah.
I think it's a good
And
question,
then
Dave.
maybe-
I would think it would be.
Possibility,
Or,
Yeah,
the one we want.
I mean, I guess you're asking from a financing standpoint. Is that what you're saying?
I guess financing's got everything to do with it.
Yeah.
So that would probably be half the concrete of the long version in full concrete. You're talking $100 and some thousand.
It's probably the same to 30-foot.
during
31
budget,
foot
we
wide
need to
road.
find the money.
That's the total. Yeah, it is kind of wide.
No, we put in 29-foot streets.
So originally, this is where
31
we
is-
thought we could.
Or
do
it's
it out of
30
operation
34
money.
that
That's why
we
we
wanted
built
the
up
extra parking on
operations
the
so
side.
much. But once we get.
34 is for
option two,
main
I don't know how
material.
That's huge wide.
Yeah.
That's double parking. Dave, can I ask you why this is 31 feet instead of 29? Is that what is that what they're tying into? Are they tying in with 31 feet?
I believe so. I'd have to confirm that, but I think that north-south street is 31.
I believe it is.
Okay. Well, we gotta match that.
Well, hold on a second. Are they putting, is there any openings for here and here for these lots? Or the-
Driveway?
Yeah, the driveways go to this street, not on this street.
Yeah, they go to.
They go on the north, south, the east, west,
They could probably go to the south.
Probably go there, right?
east, west.
So this is just a pass-through street, correct?
With parking on one side.
Parking on one side.
31 feet allows parking on one side.
Right here.
Hmm?
And that's heading.
Well, it's gonna choke down to 27 here anyway, right?
24.
Well, why can't it
And that
just choke
one's
down there?
on the way.
Because eventually we want, eventually down the road, I mean, if we're gonna do it, then why wouldn't we?
And then Langen is-
Eventually down the road, if Greenview ever
It
gets
wants to be
resurfaced,
31.
yeah, it should.
How long is that gonna be?
I don't know, but
It seems to
probably
be.
not in my lifetime, but unfortunately, it should be.
You feel that's gotta be 31 feet wide, Dave, whatever we do on our property?
There's going to be a transition at some point, as Colton mentioned. We've got a bend in the street there. They haven't paved it yet. If we wanted to reduce at the intersection, we could have them narrow that up going north. I think we have quite a bit of flexibility in that yet.
Why can't you just do
The
this
29 feet,
concrete this year? And then
that would allow no parking then whatsoever.
chip and seal this year, but
No, we can't have the city do this next year.
I don't know, I need help, you guys. What are we gonna do? Because we wanna do this fall. We gotta decide.
Gordon, I guess you're on the hook. Can we find the money for this?
Well, we've got a little extra money. We've got the 50,000 from, 70,000 from the permit. That's gonna be spent someplace else. We will get some money from the CARES program, the COVID-19. I was told today we get about 59,000 reimbursement. So that's kind of a freebie.
It was half of 120 for
That's
pay,
probably,
for
half
paving.
of what that street length would be.
Or the whole road.
That's half of, it's not half of 240.
Yeah, I don't know what the total length of that.
Dave, who would we contract to do this work? Would it be Needham and those people?
No,
You gotta
would
bid-
not be
you gotta
needed.
bid it.
Actually, Needham's done a really good
Yeah,
job
did it.
over
You
there.
gotta bid it.
I mean,
They
not that they did,
they are doing a great job over
they are,
there. Yeah.
but they didn't do very good. I mean,
Yeah.
And they've
Is,
been,
is Kevin Olson still there?
Yeah,
Kevin, could we have them put it in as part of their development and work out an agreement where we would reimburse them through some incentive?
I think the legislature changed the law last year to not allow that to happen anymore.
Okay,
So they can give us a bid though on it.
Yeah, but they have to put all the, they're not gonna get us a bid, we have to do all the bonds and all that stuff that you have to do for public bid projects. Is it under 47,000, Dave, the first part?
the seal coat one was for the construction cost. The concrete, I'd have to look at the estimate, but I'm guessing the estimate's going to be slightly above that, so we'd be looking at having to bid it out.
So phase one, you may, if you do the seal coat, you may be able to do it that way. But you have to, I don't believe we can just, you used to be able to do what, exactly what Dave said, but I gotta check the law. Because they.
Maybe we can take the sidewalk out of it and then do that in-house.
Well,
I don't think he's gonna let us use the land unless we do the sidewalk.
We kind of need the land anyway to grade for the sidewalk.
No,
Um,
I guess,
Yeah.
And there's no contingency for that cost either. We'll talk about that at closed session, how much we might think about.
and if you didn't make it,
Can't talk about all that.
make it so wide, you know, that flare,
Real estate.
take the sidewalk and the flare out, Belmont.
Jesus, why is it?
sidewalk goes nowhere. I mean, really.
But it's a start to a sidewalk that someday will go around
Sure.
there. It's a start. I just feel like if we're gonna put in a road, you know, well, how hypocritical of us would it be if we don't put in a sidewalk? We're demanding sidewalks of everybody else.
So,
Is there a sidewalk coming up this
Sidewalk or
road?
nowhere.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, there is.
there will.
so Dave, is there any storm sewer that we have to put in, to put the street in if we went to concrete, or is it all just in the curb?
If we wanted to avoid ditches, we would have to have storm sewer in there. I think we need to try to get that area where that turnaround is to drain properly once we get that regraded. And most likely that's all going to go down to the intersection of Prairie View and Greenview. There are intakes at that intersection, but I don't know that we can carry it that far without having issue in the gutters.
Currently, it all goes to the north.
But it won't once you cut the hill out of it.
Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't.
So you're saying an intake can only be so far apart, is that what you're saying?
Right, so we're at roughly 204 plus 00 with the intakes, and we're going to be about 207 as we get to the turnaround. If we go another 100 feet, we've got about 400 feet in there without any storm sewer. I'm concerned with the amount of area we'd be draining, that we might have some issue with the gutter capacity.
So,
That ditch.
so would that storm sewer then hook up with Lotham Ridge's storm that would all go to their retention? Or would it be dumping back onto Greenview?
It would go down to the detention area.
I think they've got storm sewer running up that street, don't they, to the north?
They have subdrain going under the street, but they only have intakes at the intersection.
Right there, so we'd have to come. It'd have to be on the west side, I'm assuming,
Storm
going all the way
sewer?
up the street.
There it is, right there.
We would have to, So is that cost in your estimate? Storm drain?
We have 4 intakes in there, and we have 15-inch storm sewer, 450 feet.
It does have that in it.
$250,000.
But if we only did half of it, then there's only one of those intakes for now. Well, there'd be 2 of them, but
Here's my ideal scenario. We concrete the first phase, concrete the short version this fall. I'd like to see storm sewers and work on the rest in-house, chip and seal next year.
Roger, to include the sidewalk next year,
Could do the sidewalk next year too,
in-house.
in-house.
Wasn't that the stipulation? Guy to the west?
Got to get an agreement with Lennox. I've warned them up to it. They're,
Well, I know he said he wanted the sidewalk.
yeah.
I'll just say, right now, we're concentrating on this one, the sidewalk next
Yeah,
Is the water main here right now?
year. And they moved it.
that's all removed.
4 or 6 right now?
It's 8-inch water main, I think.
Then why are we putting 6 in?
I don't see any 6. Maybe it is a 6.
That's what all water main,
trench, PVC,
number
6 inch.
23.
Okay,
6 in.
it's 6 inches then, I'm just wrong. Yeah, that's all done. They offset it, put in a new fire hydrant. It seems like the ditch gets awful close to that water main that they just buried, the ditch scenario. There's a gas line up there, there's power. I don't know who pays for that. Dave, do you know who pays for that? Is that included here?
To relocate the utilities?
Yes.
So if we're in a public right-of-way, which is what it seems to show, that we've got a 33-foot right-of-way there, if the gas and electric are in the right-of-way, then it would be the utilities requirement to relocate that. If they're in private easement, then we would have to pay.
No, it's all in that public 31 feet there, I believe.
So we need Dave to come up with
Can you come up with a cost, Dave, then to concrete the short version? Not the sidewalk.
Not the bell bottom,
What's the bell bottom?
right there.
where it flares
Yeah, that's.
at the circle. You're not gonna
Go
flare
roll
it.
on down,
Oh.
roll on down.
Oh, I see.
Keep rolling. Next page, next page. Right there.
We
Oh,
could
yeah.
gravel those flares temporarily just so people could make that turn off of the street onto the new section.
That could be gravel, chip and sealed for now, as long as people know it's gonna get improved later.
And the driveways, we've hired new public works help to help do with concrete.
Yeah, I don't care
so
about the
those-
driveways. They can be done later at
That can be done in
city
house.
project.
That picture has that road narrowing up right there.
I think it should be, I don't really care what the width is. What do you think?
I guess the width should be consistent with what we think the future is gonna be. And
Yeah, I think it should be 31 feet.
I think so too, because there's no parking in Greenview now because the streets are only 24 foot wide and you
Okay.
can't park in their yard.
Dave, then give us a scenario, concrete, 31 feet wide. The short scenario. I think it wants to have storm sewers to avoid this steep ditch and
Your wife.
why else? Help my wife out too, yeah. I do the mowing. That's not my motivation.
Oh, I'm sure she'd.
That's
enjoy
not my
it.
motivation though.
I'm sure she'd enjoy ditching her.
Is that is a reasonable thing to ask for next time?
Yeah, we'll get that
In the
taken.
meantime, Gordon and Redmond could come up with, I think it's gonna be $100,000. So come up with how we're gonna, maybe we have to borrow the money.
Yeah, they borrow.
Yes or no?
Yeah, we need to go look at it.
And try and stay below 47.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of hitting us in the face now. We could have budgeted, we could do this 2 years from now or next summer or next budget cycle and budget for it. But this is kind of hitting us now, once again, because the project's going to happen. And it seems logical to get it done now.
Well, we'll find a way.
That's the attitude.
Did you hear a little quiver in my voice?
Sure, this is gonna be, this is a project at the end of the year that most everybody's scrambling, trying to get their work done that they've already bid for the whole year, so.
When you have to bid it out, you're never gonna, it's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen this year,
because
which
you
is
gotta-
fine.
What's our hurry this year?
I don't know.
Maybe we're
Other-
not.
We've only been waiting
Well,
for it
other
for
than the fact
25
that-
years, and we can wait another year, I have to.
Keep it out
Other
there.
than the fact that we have a contract that's right there that could continue this.
Yeah,
That's, but if he's gotta bid it out, maybe
it won't hurt for them to bid it, would it?
Yeah.
They will have to bid it out. You're over 47,000. I looked at the law. They changed it.
Okay. Well, I'd like them to bid it and,
Yeah.
and someone else and
We'll keep it under 47,000 right now.
that's gonna be hard to do.
not if we
Storm-
take,
the storm
if it's
drain will
concrete and a storm sewer, there's no way.
You make it chip and seal with no sidewalk, it'll be under.
Okay.
We would take out the sidewalk.
That means you take the sidewalk out, chip and seal, it'll be under.
In the meantime, do we get the utilities to start moving some of that stuff? Is this,
And we're sure we want it concrete. We don't want to do chip and seal.
If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it the right way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jody.
But we're going to go chip and seal on phase 2, right?
No.
yeah,
For now,
No, we're not even going to phase 2.
phase 2 will be next summer.
We're gonna leave the cul-de-sac until next year.
Yeah,
That'll be,
and that could be chip and
It's coming
seal.
up.
That's going to be
phase
what?
2 be next summer. That'd be chip and
That could
seal,
be
we
chip and
do
seal.
that
I
in-house.
think we're all okay with chip and sealing that.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Yeah,
And do
that's
this
what
and
I was
chip and
gonna,
seal.
I didn't want to be a devil's advocate, but we're going to have to transition
You're gonna
from concrete to
do
chip and
50
seal
feet of it.
anyway.
Why do 50 feet of concrete? You
Why
just
did
do
you-
the rest to 200 feet and chip and seal.
I agree.
Yeah.
I thought we were just,
Well, let's discuss that next summer.
We can't afford the whole damn thing right now. That's the bottom line. We really can't.
Right.
We can't afford this whole scenario.
right, correct.
So
So
let's
you
piece,
do
we'll do it in
concrete
2
now
sections.
for the short section, and then next year, or
What I was saying
you
is.
do
what's the point of
whatever
doing a
you can
short
afford
section in
for
concrete when you're just gonna
a section
mash
of
up more chip and
concrete,
seal?
and the next
Right,
year,
Nate,
the
that's what I'm
next,
saying as well.
So here's the reason why, because you're gonna create great big ditches in people's yards that didn't have ditches before.
We can do the concrete aprons, that's not a problem. But I think our no will be below that threshold if we don't do concrete. And if we want to get it done this year,
I don't
chip
think,
and seal.
I think the scenario is we don't need to have it done this year because it's really not, well, there is one scenario that would be nice if it was done. this year,
Yeah.
but
I don't want chip and seal because there's going to be a ton of traffic on that. And it's going to be,
Well, can we worry about phase 1 now, and then we'll worry about phase 2 next
Right.
summer?
yes, I agree. Do concrete now, phase 1,
We'll put phase 2 in next year's budget.
phase 2.
This is this year's
it'd be
budget.
concrete next year. phase two.
I will have to make sure that we can get it under 47,000 with the concrete. If we can't get it under 47,000 with the concrete, then we're done this year anyway.
No, that's only
Not
to get
necessarily,
Needham.
just has to be bid out.
We
We
If
can-
we think it's not going to.
That's why we have a.
It's not gonna be under 47,000.
No way the concrete.
Not
So,
the concrete scenario.
Right.
educate
That's
me.
what I'm saying.
The bid out, does that just mean we can call two people and get a bid, or do you gotta do the whole public
whole
bidding,
thing.
bid letting and the whole 9 yards?
Time-wise.
Time-wise is 3 meetings to do that, minimum.
That don't happen this year.
And they stop.
That's why I kept saying it's not gonna happen this year. 'Cause it's not.
That's
I'm not gonna pour concrete in November, December.
No,
right.
Okay.
I'm just telling you the reality.
So,
Let me ask this scenario. Can we prepare? What if we put the storm sewer in up to it and gravel that section, 7 inches of gravel, whichever we need to get underneath the concrete to get that part done without bidding it out. That's phase 1. That gives us the
Throughway.
throughway. And then we
maybe
can have
use
a
some
bid
of
out for the
preset
spring.
first.
Jerry,
What's
there's,
our hurry?
there's some rules about piecing it up like that to keep under that threshold. I don't know the exact rules, but there's rules about that.
I think it looks like we're just piecing it together.
The more you do jerry rigging to do that, the worse their contractor might. If you had one distinct phase and say, I'm just throwing this out, I'm not saying, chip and seal, and this is the final product, and so we under 47,000, that's one thing, but, I just think you aren't going to, I think you're gonna have to bid it out, and I don't think you're gonna get it done this calendar year. But I'm just legally.
I just don't want to spend $47,000 on chip and seal when eventually we're going to tear it out and put it concrete. You're just,
We're not.
No, it would stay there.
We're not. This, phase 1, to break into Greenview is gonna be concrete.
okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm, okay.
Yep.
When-
We really want
All
concrete.
right.
Phase
We
2
really want the
next
concrete
summer.
scenario. If it doesn't happen this year, I guess nobody's really out.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Maybe you are.
All right.
Grandview.
We're gonna put storm
But we got till next summer.
Yeah, why we care?
Yeah, if we could do this
Uh,
first.
Grandview is chipping.
We're just
seal.
rushing.
What's the right way?
Oh, I agree.
Otherwise,
I
I'll
don't want-
never, ever
I
get
don't want to
done.
rush this again.
And then we
got
got
like-
another,
This is just a terrible rush job if we try to do it this fall. I think it's just too late. It's just getting too late.
All right, so our connection is going to be a temporary gravel connection.
No.
No,
No
nothing.
connection at all.
Not gonna be any connection.
Wait till next.
What's the
So
six,
then there's
what's
other
6 months
scenarios.
gonna
How's
do?
Cedar Edge, so Cedar Edge is gonna not happen this year?
Finishing
How people
Yeah.
gonna get out? That's not gonna happen this year?
probably won't happen then this
That
fall.
won't happen.
Okay, okay.
That's
Yeah.
why this
Now
scenario,
we.
Yeah.
we
That's
have
why
a
this
realistic
scenario was-
world now, okay.
trying to get done this year so that
Yeah,
connection can
and
get
it's
done.
getting too late. So
Mayor, the contractor for Lathan Ridge does have in their scope of work to do the grading for this, and that will take it all the way up to the edge of Greenview.
Oh, yeah.
the grading, how far? I
All the
mean,
way
how
up to
deep?
in some spots, they're taking off 4 feet. Right about where the siren pole is.
And they have to do that. I'm shocked.
That was put into this discussion with part of their preliminary plat approval for the extension. They were up there relocating the water line because it was too shallow, and we had them doing grading while they were there.
Okay.
Okay, my question is though, if we're gonna do this in concrete, say next year, that storm sewer has to be connected clear down at the intersection.
Better get
Then
on
it
it.
has to be brought all the way up to us. And they probably wanna do that before they put the street in. Would I be correct, Dave?
That would be the ideal way to do it. If we needed to put it back on the back of curb and then tie into the intake, we could do that.
So we could probably contract with Needham to do that work. That wouldn't be a lot.
No. Just get the pipe up there. They don't even need
Get
an
the
intake.
pipe
Just
in.
get the pipe up there. So they can be hooked on.
To the end of their their street.
To the city property line.
Yeah. We would be on the hook for that cost, right? Is that feasible, Dave, to get that worked out?
That's a question for Kevin. Can we still have them do that even on that small of a scope, Kevin, or is that problematic?
Well, they changed the definition, so I'd have to take a better look at what it looks like. If we determine the scope of work that they're doing, we can't do it.
So what happens if we do? Do they come arrest us or what happens?
Does the attorney go to jail?
It won't be the engineer.
It's the city administrator or the mayor.
Oh, yeah, see?
I'm not taking the rap for it.
Waiting for it.
Well, they can, the contractor, how this happens is the general contractors in Iowa, they're lobbying for sue. And then you're gonna be up a bunch of attorney's fees, your project's gonna be stopped. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'm just telling you that you would be great, that would not. Their lobbyists have got the law so bent to their, I'll tell you right now, any project stuff does not save the taxpayers money, it actually costs the taxpayers money. Because there's no flexibility whatsoever, and they can finish it on whatever schedule they want, and go do other projects, as you've seen in other projects you've had. So
Yes.
developers have obviously an easier time with contractors because they have more control over this stuff. Plus, there's extra costs involved because of bonding and all that stuff. It's in theory, bonding stuff would protect the contractor wouldn't belly up or anything like that, but.
This could get, that storm sewer could be pretty deep.
What are we looking at, $20,000, 15? We run a 8-inch storm sewer up there, 12-inch.
Maybe more than that. Like 15. Would I be wrong, Dave? Would that storm sewer probably be pretty deep? We're going uphill.
4 or 5 feet deep, I think, is going to be adequate for that area.
I figured you'd have more, too much slope.
All right, so Redmond, where are we at? Let's come to a conclusion on this. We'd like to get a cost of concrete scenario on the short version from Dave. No sidewalk, graded, but no sidewalk. As phase 1. And then a cost for a storm sewer. In the meantime, we need to, if we're in no hurry right now, we need to talk with the owners about construction easements and possibly acquisition of the land to the west. I think it's about 15 feet. So that's another discussion that we can figure out later.
And the short version concrete and the cost storm sewer are two separate breakdowns. That's what those costs.
I think so, yes, because the ditch is still a possibility.
All right.
Roger, in any discussion with that property owner, the area we're looking to acquire already has a sanitary sewer running through it. So there's an easement in place for that sanitary sewer for a majority of that area we want to acquire.
Oh, really?
It isn't a significant difference as far as the use of that property if it's encumbered by an easement. So probably worth mentioning that.
Okay. All right. Okay, is that clear by Dave and Redmond and then Redmond and Gordon can, at some point we need to figure out where we're going to get the money. It might be next year's budget anyway. It'd be nice if we could do it in the spring. This year's budget.
That's the time to have it bid out.
Yeah. This year's budget.
February.
So for a potential bid in February. Does that make sense to everybody?
All
I suppose at the time we could bid it out, phase 1, phase 2, both of them, and go the whole length.
I guess if we're,
We're trying to keep that in-house. We get to the flat part, we'll chip and seal it. No,
phase 2,
yeah. But that's another discussion.
That's another
That's another
discussion.
discussion. Okay?
Let's just break through the freedom.
All right, we're gonna move on.
You can have $50,000 from the school project.
All right, that's the end of everything for now. City Administrator, what have you got, anything?
Very quickly, I know we got a closed session, so just wanted to update you on the wastewater treatment process on our IUP. It has been approved for $7,187,000. We shall have an engineering service agreement probably on the next council agenda for the design work to start. Apparently, we were also ranked pretty high in the state priority list. That
Wait a minute here. Can you back up and start over again?
okay?
You said we were approved for what now?
IUP. Remember our IUP process that
Yeah.
we had to go through with our wastewater treatment plant. That's a state process that they help us with our SRF, our state revolving loan fund.
Okay.
So being approved for that's the first step so that we can conduct our design.
Okay.
And we've been ranked pretty high on that. So it's not like they will take it away or anything, but when they prioritize all the various projects around the state, it could come into importance that the ranking. So that part is done. We were waiting a little while on that, and that happened. So now we can kind of start the design process, and we'll have something at the next council meeting for our engineering service agreement on that. Still moving forward, do have a draft letter on the letter that I talked about last time about sending to DNR to ask for more time on our compliance permit. So kind of working through some details with DNK as to the letter, but we'll send that in. That's kind of also a little Hail Mary to try and slow down the process and give us more time. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, I think we're close to getting the final date for police chief. So it looks like the end of November will likely be his last day, and we also have some vacation time built into that. So we probably won't be seeing Chief patrolling after October 26th. So me and the mayor will be working through getting that recruitment process moving because that's coming up a little sooner than we're thought. I think for now, that's what I have, but I'll also put my report out on the website. So, well, you can have any questions about that. We can go into more detail.
All right, nothing from Kevin. City staff, anyone? Matt went to bed. Oh, there he is? No, it's Chief.
Nice, Chief.
I think Matt has his daughter's birthday tonight.
Oh, good boy. All right.
I think the chief has something. No?
Chief, did you want to say something?
And you just waved because you said his name.
Oh, okay. All right, hearing nothing from staff, we will go on to council. I have two things. The Lions Club, they have their flag program. They operate out of a little 12-foot trailer. It's too small. We're running them down on them. They want to build a shed. They'd like to build it at the cemetery. Probably a 12 by 12 shed. It would be a city shed. They would build it or have it built. We would let them use it. It would be a city property, city shed. I know they've talked to Matt about it, a potential location.
Yep.
if they ever cease to use it, we would have a shed. I don't know. I think it would be on a slab. Maybe it could be on skids. So it could be relocated. Are we up for letting them do that?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
the
general
great service.
consensus. I
They
don't
do
know
a
if we
great
need a
service.
resolution at some point. But
Yeah, need some indemnification language, yeah.
say that again.
You're gonna need an agreement that just indemnifies it, that if somebody falls there or something like that, so.
Liability.
Okay.
We're gonna need something
Yeah,
to
so
write
if they're in there and a flag falls.
to allow them to do it.
Can you work on that?
Yes, I can work on that.
Okay. So I got your consensus to give them the green light to keep planning on that. Okay.
Do we have to insure the building?
Probably. It would be our building.
We're gonna own the building or they're gonna lease it?
Nope, we would own it. I don't think they're gonna pay for it.
Okay.
They're going to pay for it?
No, they would pay, they would,
Yep, they pay for the building.
Pay
but
for
they
the
would kind of
construction.
lease. They would build it and pay for that, yes.
Yes, we would insure that.
Okay, KLM wanted to be on the agenda tonight for approval of their final plat so they could start selling properties because they've got some hot to trot property buyers. It's not on tonight's agenda.
Doesn't have a connection.
They've got a little work to do yet, getting a irrevocable letter of credit. We may have to have a special meeting later this week. I'm thinking Wednesday-ish. Could be a Zoom meeting. Are you guys up? I just need 3 of you.
It's the same people that wanted to put in the assisted living property there on the corner across from the high school.
Oh, you mean the buyers?
Yeah.
Non-buyers?
Them hot buyers.
Oh, those hot, yeah, I don't.
I have heard they have some buyers that want to get in there.
So I may call a special meeting later this week, so be ready. I'll probably, just like we did, I'll show up here if anybody, 3 of you want to show up.
I know a good idea how they
The
can
rest
get
of you
a
can Zoom.
good way to get a special meeting.
You know a good way?
Yeah, they can pay for a turn lane.
I'll
I'll show up to an emergency meeting on Thursday for a turn lane.
Okay, so that may be coming up. That's all I have. Anybody else?
I have one thing. TIF asking, which is going to come up 1st of December. I think that should be on our next agenda, whether we have somebody come in and discuss that with us or what, but
Just an overview of our TIF
yes,
situation.
I think
Yeah, we do that every year almost.
I know we don't use enough of our TIF on things we should be, so I would like a little bit of an update on.
Could that be Maggie? Or
It would be Maggie.
let's see if we can get Maggie here either next meeting or the following meeting.
Yeah, I also wanted to get Kevin to do some, I didn't talk to him about it yet, but I wanted to also get Kevin and Maggie together to kind of talk about their perspectives.
Right.
Their what?
Their various perspectives.
Yeah,
Various perspectives.
completely different.
Perspective, but that's it.
Right. I guess I look
That's where I
at it.
come from though.
I guess
so.
I look at it, a lot of other cities are using 50% of their askings, and we're not even using 1/4 of our askings, so
Okay,
I think we're.
let's keep reviewing that.
Yeah.
That's okay. So we're going to adjourn out of this meeting and then go. You have a closed session to talk about some real estate.
In accordance with.
Do I have to read that?
No, you have it on the agenda. You just have to vote and have a 4/5 majority to go into closed session though.
I've got to adjourn out of this meeting, right?
You can adjourn out of this meeting.
I need a motion to adjourn out of this meeting, first of all. Colton and Nick will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. I see he's the only one. What?
Yes.
Okay, so now I need a motion to go into closed session in accordance with State Code 21.5J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second by Jerry and Colton.
I'll vote no, so we can go home.
Time for a voice vote.
Lost me real low.
Okay, roll call vote on the motion to go into closed session.
Jerry,
Yes.
Colton,
Yes.
Nick,
Yeah.
Yep.
Jody.
31.